Okay, welcome to the Homework 8 lecture. This one is going over commission. We're talking about a little bit about ingredient costs and one problem about simple interest. But this one has a bunch of stuff going on with it. And I'll try to keep everything organized. So we're going to do more of the algebra stuff first, and then we're going to move into more of the cooking stuff for this lecture. So I went ahead and picked out a couple of them from the homework that summarize the entire set of homework problems. And let's start with number 1. Now, this one you can follow along with the PDF that I've given y'all through Moodle. You can see it online and track the homework problems. So this one says Phil works as an appliance salesman in a department store. Last month, he sold $43,000 worth of appliances. So I'm going to say $43,000 worth of appliances. His commission rate is 5%. I'm going to say the com rate is 5%. How much money did he earn in commission last month? So y'all might be familiar with some kind of problem like this. If you're in the selling industry or something, some retail stores, customers buy something and the employees get a commission on it. Some network marketing places or businesses give commission to their employees, car salesmen, appliance salesmen, as you can see. And it's calculated much like tip. So whenever we want to actually find the actual commission, meaning how much the person earned, we're going to take the purchase price and we're going to multiply it by the commission rate, and that will give you the commission. So our purchase price, or what was sold, is $43,000. And then the commission rate is this. We have to convert 5% to 0.05. So convert it to 0.05. All you got to do is multiply it across. 43,000 times 0.05. And that gives us a commission of $2,150. And that would be your answer for that problem. So calculating this is much like calculating tip in a restaurant. You want to do 20% tip or 18, 25%, whatever it is. You calculate the tip. That's a commission of the final sale, essentially. So they're calculated in the same way. So like if you said tip, that would be tip is equal to the purchase price or the bill price before or after tax. It doesn't matter. I mean, that's a debate for everybody, right? Do you tip on the tax, like after the tax or before the tax? So the bill price times your tip percentage, whether that's going to be, 15, 18, 20, 25% or more. It doesn't really matter. It's really up to you on how you tip. So it's calculated the same way. Bill price is the same thing as like purchase price. Tip percent is the same thing as like the commission rate. So they mean similar things. That was not too bad of a problem. That one y'all might be a little familiar with. But let's go ahead and try number 2, which is something different. We're talking about percent increase and percent decrease. This one on number 2 says, Shelley is searching online for airline tickets. 2 weeks ago, the cost to fly from Denver to Orlando was $200. The price is now $370. Rough. So $170 increase. It's asking what is the percent increase. So how we calculate percent increase and decrease is kind of like this. This is the way that I like to do it. We want to take the new price and divide it by the old price. And that's going to be the way that we're going to find the increase. Because remember, old represents the whole amount that was given. And that would be the initial price. The new one is how much we're increasing it by. So we're going to take the new price, which is $370, and we're going to divide that by the old price, which was $200. So 370 divided by 200 gives us a decimal of 1.85. So if we change this number right here we can change to a percentage. This would be 185%. Now that's not the increase, that's the total amount, like the total percentage of comparing the new to the old. Essentially, the old price, remember, is $200. Now, the new price is $370. So we can agree that the 200 is within the 370. So that represents 100% of the price. The extra $170, right? Because 370 minus 200 makes $170. That's the extra percent on top of the 100%. So essentially, this right here is the 100%. This is the extra percent, the 85%. So what we do to find the increase or decrease is if this number is above 100%, we simply take 185% and subtract 100% because we're just trying to find the increase. We know it's going to include the original amount, $200. It increased $170, so we subtract it, and that would be a 85% increase in price. So usually this new divided by old concept helps us visualize the percent increase or decrease. The easiest way to calculate it, really. So if you want to compare, your profits for like one day to another, or profits from 1 week to another, profits from 1 month to another, you can do this new divided by old concept. So always do the old, whatever you're going to compare it to, and then the new price. That'll give you your answer. That one has a percent increase problem. Let's look at it. Number 3. This one's representing something that would be a decrease. It says in 2007, 10.4 million desktop computers were sold. So computers, I'll put desktop because that's important. And then in 2015, it says 4.6 million desktop computers were sold. Now, notice it's a decrease. In 2007, it was 10.4 million, but in 2015, it's 4.6 million. So there's a decrease in the amount of desktop computers purchased, and that might be because everybody's moving to laptops or tablets, or people just use their phones. But 2007, desktop was reigning. A lot of people still have them. I have one still because I find it more convenient to work at home. But there's a decrease. So let's look at that new and old concept again. This time our new is 4.6 and our old is 10.4. So we're going to be comparing those two. Go ahead and divide them out. 4.6 divided by 10.4. We get a rough number, 0.44, let's see, 230769. That's enough to write. So what that's telling us is this price is, we could say, if we move this over twice, move the decimal over twice, 44.230769%. It's roughly 44% of this price right here. So it's only a fraction of it. Now, that's not the answer. To find the percent increase or decrease, we need to look at that 100%. Last one, we subtracted 100% from the 185. We did 185 minus 100%, and that gave us 85% increase, right? That was the last problem. This problem, what we want to do is subtract this number from 100% because this represents a percentage of the original. So we need to find out how much was lost. This only represents a fraction of it. How much was lost? So we would do 100% minus 44.230769%. And that gives us 44.23. Typing it over on my calculator. All right. 44.23. 55.769231% decrease. And that's what it gives us. So end up losing, in the book it says round it, so 55.8% decrease. Round it slightly up to the next one. So we see we lost more than half the price. Like half of 10.4 we know is at least 5 million. So it's lost over half of it. Remember, 50% would be half, and it's lost a little over that. So it makes sense that it lost 55.8%. So that would be an decrease percentage. Very practical and a little simple formula, just the new divided by the old. That's usually the easiest way to find the percent decrease and increase. You always have to compare it to the other one. So let's look at number 4. This one, we're talking about simple interest. Stacy has a credit card with a local bank. She has to pay a monthly interest rate. This is for a credit card. The interest rate is 2.8% on the average daily balance of the amount she owes on her credit card. Last month, her balance was $600. How much interest was she charged last month? So we need to find out how much interest she will be charged. Now, the formula for simple interest, our simple interest formula looks like this. I equals P times R times T. Each little component represents something. I represents our interest, so the amount of extra money that we have to pay or earn on top of the principal. P is going to be our principal, so that's going to be our starting balance. R is going to be our rate, and T is going to be our time. Now, everything you get plugged directly into this, we're trying to find what the interest is. I is equal to this one right here would be your P. This one right here would be your rate, but we have to change it to a decimal. So our principal, or our starting balance, is $600 times 0.028. Now, our time in this instance is going to be 1 because it's asking what her charge was last month. This interest rate is by the month, so only 1 month has passed, so that's what we're going to be doing, is only charging for 1 month. So go ahead and multiply everything out. 600 times 0.028 times 1. All right, and you end up getting 16.8. So that would be I equals $16.80. That would be your interest, or her interest on the credit card. Now that's simple interest. A lot of things don't really work in simple interest. They do for each month calculation. Remember, some things benefit us, like compound interest in terms of investing money. But simple interest is used in some applications, but not very many. But you'll learn something with compound interest if you go into a college algebra course. Nevertheless, that's your answer. You just go ahead and follow the formula. So if it said for 2 months, we would have changed this time to 2, or if it said for half a year, we would change time to 6 months. To be 6 after that. That's if the balance stayed the same at $600, right? But if there's a new balance every month, you would have to calculate each individual formula for each month to calculate the new interest rate and the new balance. So it gets a little tricky. The math, you have to make sure it's correct. Don't want to get in trouble for that, right? Let's look at number 9. All right, here's where we're working into the ingredient costs. Now, let's look at number 9. It says, find the cost of the amount of ingredient being used in the recipe. Our ingredient is 3 ounces of brown sugar. That's what it was. Now our AP cost, remember this is as purchased. Our as purchased cost is $0.93 for 1 pound. It wants us to find the cost of the ingredient. That's what we need to find is the cost of the ingredient. So how much does this cost us for our recipe that we're using it for? The 3 ounces of brown sugar are being used for some particular recipe. We need to calculate how much that ingredient costs, because ultimately you're going to have a bunch of different ingredients to add up, and you make something called a recipe cost form. So what does your recipe cost for each individual ingredient? So you purchase the brown sugar in bulk, by a pound or probably 5 pounds, just depending on what you want, at 93 cents for 1 pound. So this is just a fraction of it. We're trying to find out what that little fraction costs for the whole entire recipe. So remember in some of the earlier conversion problems, we talk about what our goal is, what we want. Like what kind of rate do we want? Do we want, cost per pound, or did we want, just fluid ounces or liters? What was our ultimate answer that we want? It wants us to find cost. So our final answer needs to be in dollar signs, not cost per pound or anything. In this instance, it would be cost per use of the brown sugar. Easiest thing, though, is to have it in the dollar sign as our final answer. So all of the problems that I've given y'all, I always told you to start with what you're given. We're given the 3 ounces of brown sugar. Start with the 3 ounces. So we're going to say 3 ounces. Remember, this is a weight measurement. It doesn't say fluid ounces. So 3 ounces of brown sugar. We need to get to money somehow. Well, the cost right here is 93 cents per 1 pound. So this is a ratio, right? We could say dollars over pounds, or we could say pounds over dollars. But we ultimately want dollars. So we need to kind of map out a way to get to this dollars. I want to change 3 ounces since our purchase is in pounds. I want to go ahead and change our unit of measurement to pounds. So for every 1 pound, we have 16 ounces. So now we can see that the ounces would cancel out and we would have it in pounds. Then we want to convert to the next unit, which would be dollars. So this would be $0.93 per. We have to look for how much we're purchasing for. It's per 1 pound. So we're going to say per 1 pound. As you see, ounces cancels out, pounds cancels out. We're going to be left with dollars. Now I told you all the easiest way to calculate all these is to maybe, if you're not familiar with the calculator too much, multiply everything on top. So I'm going to do 3. I'm going to end up doing the 3 times the 1 times the 0.93 on top. So 3 times 0.93. It gives us 2.79 up on the top. For the bottom number, 16 times 1 is just 16. Go ahead and divide those numbers out, and you get 0.174375. Now, when we're talking about ingredient costs, we're talking about money, right? So money always has to be rounded right here. That's your little border. We need it rounded to that number. But here's the tricky part. In the instruction, it says round costs up to the next cent, or to the nearest cent. Because we want to overestimate our costs, we don't want to underestimate them. If I round it down to 17 cents, then I'm going to be like, wow, why am I not making profit on these? Those little pennies round up. They add up, they add up in the long run. So this number, we always want to round up to the next one. So this would be $0.18. That's your answer for number 9. So $0.18 for the cost. So this 3 ounces of brown sugar costs 18 cents. Say the recipe said 6 ounces of brown sugar. Well, the recipe said 6 ounces of brown sugar. Well, if 3 ounces makes 18 cents, 16 ounces, or I'm sorry, 6 ounces is double 3 ounces. So you would expect that to be double the cost. This would be $0.36. They keep it proportional. Like if you're doubling the recipe, if you're making 2 of them, well, then you should expect it to be 36 cents. And if you doubled that, you did 12 ounces instead. Well, 0.36 times 2, that would make it to $0.72. So each increment adds up. You'll get to different values depending on what the final amount is. So ultimately, this is in ounces. We should expect that once we get to 16 ounces, it should be 93 cents. So let's try another problem. I'm going to go backwards. Going to go to number 8. Just because it just has a little conversion factor. This one is find the cost of the ingredient. Our ingredient is 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Now it gives us a conversion factor. And this is where we can convert 1 cup of baking powder is equal to 6.9 ounces. So we're going from a volume measurement to a weight measurement because we use the ingredient in volume, but we purchase the AP cost. We purchase the baking powder in weight units for 10 pounds. See, we purchase it in pounds, but we use it by the volume. So we want to make sure that when we're calculating the ingredient costs, we calculate it correctly. So when we started out, remember, you always want your dollar to be the ultimate goal. We need to start out with what's given, which is 2 teaspoons. And I need to make my way to pounds so then I can go to dollars. So first we need to go to pounds, but we can't go to pounds until we get to this measurement right here, that conversion factor. We did this some lessons ago when we converted. So I see I need to get 2 teaspoons as volume measurement to the cup's volume measurement. So times, there's 48 teaspoons per 1 cup. Now that we have it in cups as our unit of measurement, we can go ahead and convert it into a weight measurement so that we can finally get to this. So this would be for every 1 cup, we have 6.9 ounces. Now we need to convert ounces to pounds because our cost is in pound increments. So this would be 16 ounces for 1 pound. And then now that's in pounds, we need to put it into money. It's $10.72 per 10 pounds. We use this entire rate right there, right here. And then you're all set up. The teaspoons cancel out, cups cancel out, ounces cancel out, and pounds cancel out. Again, easiest way is to multiply everything on the top. 2 times 6.9 times 10.72. It gives us 147.936 divided by 48 times 16. 768. Go ahead and divide those two numbers out. The extra 0 right here, because I forgot to multiply it by the 10. And that gives us 0.019265. Now we want to, again, round it right here. So we need to round this number right there. It has to be rounded up to the next unit. So that would be 0.02. This is the one that we want to round it to. So our cost is $0.02 per 2 tablespoons of baking powder. Or not tablespoons, teaspoons. So 2 teaspoons cost us 2 cents. That's minuscule, right? I mean, it's really not that much, but still we have to add up every ingredient. We understand baking powder is purchased more in bulk, so it will cost less usually versus it's not even that. It's more like just the cost of any kind of ingredient. Powder, sugar, flour, all that stuff might be a little cheaper than something like meat, poultry, beef, pork, or more exotic ingredients like vanilla extract or nutmeg, cinnamon, avocados. Something like that would cost more for the recipe. But baking powder is relatively small. So again, if you were to double that to 4 teaspoons, you would expect the cost to double. That would be 4 cents then. If it was 4 teaspoons, it would be 4 cents. Now we need each one of these little ingredients to calculate the entire recipe cost. That's the goal. Let's do number 10. Number 10, another example, our ingredient. Let's see, 6 ounces of granulated sugar. The AP cost is $3.06 for a 5-pound bag. This is how it's written in the homework, 5 lb bag. So notice this is ounces, this is pounds. So there is no conversion factor needed. We use the ingredient by weight, we buy it by weight. But if you use the ingredient by volume, you would have to have a conversion factor because you purchase it by weight. But the ingredient is being used in the same unit of measurement. So again, we want cost as our final answer. Start out with what you're given, 6 ounces. We have to make our way to pounds so we can get to this. That'd be 16 ounces, 1 pound, and then do the cost, $3.06 for a 5-pound bag. And then multiply everything out. 6 times 3.06, 18.36 on top. 16 times 5 on the bottom gives us 80. Divide them out, 18.36 divided by 80. And that gives us 0.2295. And remember, we want to round that up to the next cent, so 0.23. Costs you 23 cents for 6 ounces of brown sugar. And again, that's the weight. That isn't the volume. I would have put fluid ounces if it was liquid volume. Here it's the weight volume. So 6 ounces of 6 ounces of granulated sugar costs us 23 cents. So that's basically the scheme of things, or how to do those type of problems. But got a different thing to add on top of. Let's look at number 16. So number 16. So it says find the amount of the ingredient being used in the recipe, the ingredient. And it shows that as a fraction, 3/4 of a cup of chopped shallots. So the conversion factor is going to be 1 cup is equal to 5.2 ounces. Oops. Now we have yield percent, because remember, these are chopped shallots. It's not going to be just them by themselves. They have to be chopped and prepped. So we learned last time yield percent is given to us. You can find a lot of these yields in the book of yields. On these problems, they're given to you. But when you're actually making your own recipe cost form, you're going to have to find this yield percentage. You can look it up in, again, the book of yields, that has a bunch of them organized in there, and that's how they should be prepped. It should be 90.6%. If you get like 93%, that means you're probably not chopping enough. If you get like 85%, you're chopping too much. You usually want to get around that 90.6 that it shows right here. And you can find that yield usually by weight is how you want to find out. You can do volume as well. There's different ways to do it. So it could be weight, volume. Usually weight's the best way to do it. And it says the AP cost for this is $0.59 per pound. Now there's different ways to calculate this. I'm going to show you one way, and then we'll do it another way. Remember, AP cost represents how much it's worth in the beginning as you purchase it. It's worth 59 cents per pound. But then you have your edible portion, your EP cost, right? So remember, let's go back and talk about yield percentage. This would be your AP over your as purchased over your edible portion for your EP. So you have as purchased and edible portion, and that gives us a yield percentage. But whenever we talk about like a yield percentage and we're talking about like cost, in terms of cost, our EP cost is on the top and our AP cost is on the bottom because we have to think about things proportionally. So like, let's think about like a pineapple again. I talk about the pineapple because it's an example. Let's look at like a pineapple. We'll come back to the problem. A pineapple, I just did a quick Google search for it, and it says the average pineapple costs about $4.28. Well, once it'll cut up. It's about $2.75. So a whole pineapple might cost $2.75. I'll round it up to $3. And they average from 2 to 5 pounds. So I'll just say a pineapple costs $3 per 3 pounds. So $3 per 3 pounds, that would simplify to $1 per 1 pound, right? So each dollar is 1 pound. Now this would be your AP. But once you chop it up and everything, if you prep it, the yield on a pineapple, according to the Book of Yields, if we peel it, core it, and cube it, is 45.56%. So we take 3, this 3 right here. We need to multiply it by 0.4556. That would then give us a new number, 0.4556 times 3. That gives us 1.3668 pounds left over. So now we have $3 for 1.3668 pounds worth of pineapple. If we actually divide this out, now it becomes $2.19 per 1 pound. Our number here is higher than the other one because now we have less of the ingredient, so it's going to cost more proportionally. We chopped it and everything. We're not going to say, oh, why would we sell this pineapple for less if we have less of it? Remember, you have the edible portion and the as purchased portion. So after you prep it from here to here, you lose a lot, right? You have a lot of trim loss and everything. So the poundage goes down, and that means the per pound unit is going to be higher than the initial one. So a prepped amount of something is always going to be worth more than something that's not prepped. But proportionally, they're the same thing. It's more of like, we have to keep it proportional. It's a pineapple to pineapple. We just prepped it. It's the same pineapple. We just took off the stuff that we couldn't eat. You can also, like if you were selling it as chopped pineapple, you could also upcharge this number right here, that $2.19. You could finagle it to maybe $2.25 to account for maybe the labor of chopping it up. You know, however you sell it, you want to do whatever. Some people, I'm reading up on another search, some people have it at $4.28 per pound. You know, it just depends on what you want to sell it for if you're selling chopped pineapple. Thing is, though, we got to see how it's proportional, how these two numbers are different. So let's go back to the problem at hand. We need to know the EP cost in order to calculate this correctly. Everything is going to be calculated the same way. So to find the EP cost, we need to take this number right here, the 0.59, and divide it by the yield percentage. So 0.59 divided by 0.906. That gives us, it's going to give us a long decimal, 906, 0.65121412835. It's a lot of numbers. So we got to include all the numbers as possible to keep our calculation correct. Now we go back to our old way of doing things. We're going to start out with this, 3/4 of a cup of chopped shallots. Now I'm going to convert 3/4 to 0.75 because that one's an easy one to convert. And now if it was like 1/3 cup, don't convert it to decimal, it's repeating. 0.75 cups. We buy it by the pound. We currently have it as a volume measurement, so we have to get our way to weight measurement. Here's a conversion factor. We already have it in 1 cup, or in cups unit. So we're going to put 1 cup is equal to 5.2 ounces. Then we need to get it to pounds. Go ahead and multiply by, for every 1 cup, we have, or I'm sorry, for every 1 pound, we have 16 ounces. And then we can use, instead of this cost, we don't want to use the AP cost because remember it says chopped shallots. We're not going to use this one anymore. It's not the one we're going to use currently. We're going to use our new amount. Erase this little circle. We're going to use our new amount, which is 0.6512. What is that? 141.28035 dollars over 1 pound. Convert it to that because we need to use this one next. Go ahead and multiply everything out. Multiply the top numbers, 0.75 times 5.2 times 0.651214128035. That gives us 2.539735099934 divided by 16. I keep this giant number though because the more decimal places that we have, the more accurate our number is going to be. So we want to have up to the penny of accuracy, but to include ultimate accuracy, we keep as many decimal places as possible. Go ahead and divide these out. That number divided by 16. That's going to give us our 0.1587334. Now, all of this I don't need because that's my final answer. We need to round this up like we've been doing. So this would be 16 cents. So 3/4 of a cup of chopped shallots costs us 16 cents. Now, hypothetically, if I change this number to just 0.65, if we did all the calculations, I'll put it in a hypothetical blue color down here, 0.75 cups times 5.2 ounces, divided by 1 cup times 1 pound over 16 ounces. And if we rounded this to 0.65 divided by 1 pound, you're going to see our number change slightly. Times 5.2 times 0.65. That gives us 2.535 for the top number. For the bottom number, we still have 16. And if we divide that by 16, we get 0.1584375. Notice this number right here is slightly different from this number. This one actually terminates. The other one keeps going on forever. They're roughly the same number. That's the important thing going on here. They're roughly the same number, but that's not always the case. Sometimes this number might have been calculated slightly differently. So if that number calculated to something higher than 16, we would have to round that number to 17 because we always round up. So I like to keep a bunch of numbers, even though that these turned out the same. 16 cents for 3 cups. I like to keep the numbers as infinite as possible. All right. Whew, that's a lot of work, right? Let me show you a different way of doing this, though. I'm going to take all this stuff right here. I'm going to copy all this. Okay, I don't want the EP cost right now. Let's go over to the new page. Let's paste it. Let's take the same exact problem. I'll put a little star next to it so that it's the same problem, but I'm showing you a different way. Ignore this yield percentage for right now. What you can do is multiply everything like normal, just like we did earlier. We had 0.75 cups, and then this is for every 1 cup, it's 5.2 ounces. There's 16 ounces per 1 pound, and then it's 59 cents per 1 pound. You can calculate all of that and find out a number. 0.75 times 5.2 times 0.59. This is 2.301 up on top and 16 on the bottom. Divided by 16. That gives us 0.1438125. But remember, this was calculated right here. This was calculated with the AP cost. So this is with our AP cost. To find out with the EP cost, we just need to take that number, 0.1438125, our final number, and divide it by the yield percentage. So divide it by this yield percentage, 0.906. If you divide that out, this way you don't have to keep those infinite decimals, 0.906. That gives us our answer right away, 1587334433709, which rounds to 16 cents. I find this method much easier because whenever you multiply numbers, you only have as many decimal places right here as you have when multiplying. So we have decimal places here, we have multiply there, and then when we divide, we only divide by 16. So this number actually terminated. It didn't actually become anything infinite. Now it can sometimes, but it terminated in this case. And I find it easier just to divide this number at the end because we don't have to store all those extra decimals. So what you can do from now on is just calculate this entire thing and then divide by the yield percentage at the very end, and it gives you your answer right away. So let's try that with let's try the shortcut method, or I call it the shortcut method, with another problem. Let's do number 17. It says find the cost of the ingredient. So the ingredient is 4 teaspoons of fresh thyme leaves. So fresh thyme leaves, we'll say thyme leaves. Erase this little streak right here. Let's see, the conversion factor is going to be 1 tablespoon is equal to 0.1 ounces, and 1 bunch is equal to 1 ounce. So there's 2. A yield percentage is 65%. And then the AP cost is 67 cents per bunch. So you can see, like, we purchase it by the bunch, then we chop it and it becomes, I should have put fresh thyme leaves. So we have to prep them. So there is some kind of yield percentage for it. So start out with our 4 teaspoons of fresh thyme leaves. We need to make our way over to bunches, And you can see that a bunch is just like a unit of measurement, like it's a count. So you buy things in bunches, right? You might buy a bunch of cilantro, a bunch of thyme leaves, stuff that's just in bunches, not per unit. You might also do something like that, like per pineapple or per celery or per apple. Everything might be measured by per. Like avocados are by units of measurement, by like count them 1, 2, 3 avocados. Here it's per bunch. It's not a weight measurement, but it's still a unit of measurement. So what we do is we need to make our way from a volume measurement, volume to weight, and then weight to unit of bunch. Start with what we're given, 4 teaspoons. It needs to be 1 tablespoon or into tablespoons. So there's, for every 1 tablespoon, we have 3 teaspoons. Now we can use this conversion factor right here. I'll start color coding stuff so y'all can follow along. For every 1 tablespoon, we have 0.1 ounces. That's what this part is. Now we go from ounces to bunches. So this would be for every 1 ounce, it's 1 bunch. That would be this part is this part. So we currently have it in bunches. Erase that. So now that we have everything in bunches, we can go ahead and plug in our costs. So times $0.67 per 1 bunch. And you got to multiply everything. I'm going to multiply all the top numbers. 4 times 1 times 0.1 times 1 times 0.67 is 0.268 on top. 3 times 1 times 1 times 1 is 3. So we divide it by 3. That gives us 0.089333333. Keeps repeating. Store this number in your calculator. Whatever you have calculated, we now divide it by the yield percentage. So take this number, and we're going to take this right here, and we're going to divide it by 0.65 at the end to include the yield percentage. So divide by 0.65. That then gives us 0.137435897.436. All these other numbers are redundant. This would just round to $0.14. So 14 cents per 4 teaspoons of fresh thyme leaves. This is the cost of prepped thyme leaves. If they weren't prepped, it would have been about 9 cents. So you can see that right here would have been the AP cost. That would have been about 9 cents. But here, this is our EP cost for the ingredient after we calculate everything. It'd be 14 cents. So it makes sense that it's higher. Now, we'll say with the EP cost, with the AP cost calculated. But remember, that's the cost of the ingredient for the recipe. Okay. What number was that? That was number 17. Let's do number 19. And number 19. Now, this one's a little tricky. It says a recipe calls for red bell peppers. So 4 red bell peppers. And it says chopped. On average, red bell peppers have a purchase weight of 10 ounces each. So we'll say 1 red bell pepper is about equal to 10 ounces. They have a yield percentage of 84.4%. What number of AP pounds are needed for this recipe? So how many AP pounds are needed? Well, let's think about it. It's asking about AP pounds on this problem. which has nothing to do with yield percentage, right? AP is how we purchase them. So we don't really care about the yield percentage for this problem. Doesn't matter. We know the ingredient needed is 4 red bell peppers and then chopped. But it's asking how many AP pounds. So again, I don't care that it's chopped. I just need to know how many red bell peppers. So if you send somebody out to buy some, it's like, oh, how many bell peppers do you need? I just need 4 of them. I don't need to know how many pounds of it chopped. It's asking for how many pounds of red bell peppers in total. So if there's 4 red bell peppers, I'm just going to say red peppers, we just need to multiply that by a ratio. 10 ounces per 1 red pepper. And then it's asking for how many pounds. Remember, it's asking for how many pounds. So we need to convert that to pounds. If you multiply everything out, that'd be 40 divided by 16. And that gives us 2.5 pounds. 2.5 pounds of red bell peppers is needed. So that's how you calculate all these ingredient cost problems. Take what you start out with. This one was a little tricky, but like these, take what you're given for the ingredient and you have to start out with it. Then you work your way over to calculating the rest. The last thing on here is talking about our food cost percentage. So remember our food cost, I'll do the problem first. For this one, it's saying find the minimum suggested selling price for 1 serving of the recipe. So the total recipe cost, is $19.90. It says the number of servings that the recipe makes is 12. And it says the desired food cost percent is 20%. Let's recall what our food cost is. So food cost percentage is, again, how much it costs us to make it or how much it costs us to buy it over how much we sell it for. Again, I say buy, sell, how much does it cost to buy the ingredients and prep it and everything. But buy and sell makes a bit more sense. I'll put buy in quotations. So how much does it cost to prep it and how much are we going to sell it for? So if you want, prep over sell as well. So we're given a total recipe cost. We know the cost, so how much does it cost to buy it, is $19.90. Number of servings is 12. We want a desired food cost percentage of 20%. Now it wants to know, find cost of each serving. That's what it wants. Or find the selling price. Find the selling price of each serving. We'll get to the each part in a second. The easiest way to do this is the food cost percentage is 20%, so it'd be 0.20. We have to prep it. It costs us $19.90. We need to figure out how much we're going to sell it for. So remember, we can cross multiply, and we can call this x. So this would be 0.20x. Remember, the number that's down here is a 1. We assume it's a 1. That equals 19.90. So to solve for x, you have to divide both sides by 0.20. So 1990 divided by 0.20. That gives us 99.5. Now, that's how much we should sell the entire recipe for. We don't want to sell the entire, like if you wanted to sell the whole batch of it, it would be sold for $99.50. So $99.50 for the whole recipe. That's how much we want to sell the entire batch for. But we have 12 servings, so we're going to take $99.50 divided by 12, and that gives us 8.29166666 repeats, which we would round up to the next one. It would be $8.30 per serving. So if you want to calculate how much you would sell it for each individual serving, each plate, you want to keep it at $8.30 per serving if your food cost is 20%. If you want to make your food cost lower, like 15%, that's, creeping up there, 15% or just 18%, obviously you would have to sell it for more then, because the cost of the recipe isn't going to go down unless you purchase, cheaper products, or the price in the recipe goes down, for certain ingredients. If the price for the recipe goes up, it's more likely because you're buying maybe higher quality ingredients, or the cost of those ingredients aren't seasonal currently, so they'll cost more. Now, what you could have done if you wanted, you could have divided these two numbers in the beginning, the $19.90 divided by 12. You could have divided them. You could have said 19.90 divided by 12. So the cost for each individual one would have been 1.6583, repeating the 3 repeats. So you have to store this number for the next one. If our food cost is 0.20 and it costs us for each one 1.65833333, I'll put like 6 number 3s there, divided by, again, x, we're going to sell it for 0.20x equals 1.658. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have to divide by 0.20 on both sides. And that gives us x equals, divided by 0.20, 8.2916666, again, which rounds to $8.30 per serving. So you get the same answer. You can choose to divide in the beginning to find the cost of each one. So if you divided these two things right here, that would give us about 1.66 per serving if we divided them out. The problem with using this number is if I used 1.66 instead, like what if I substituted this number right here for 1.66, this number right here for 1.66, this number for 1.66. If I did 1.66, it would give us exactly $8.30. But it's tricky. You don't really want to do that. You want to keep everything as accurate as possible. Keep as many decimal places as possible, because if you round your initial amount right here at the top, that's going to affect your next number. That's something called continuous rounding. Meaning if you round each individual calculation, it's going to ultimately round the final calculation even more. So hypothetically, if we go back to like these problems, if I rounded each one of these, that would be 0.3 rounded. And I rounded this one and this one. If I rounded each individual number, even though those don't really round that much, if I rounded each individual one, then calculated it, I'm going to get a different answer. And that would happen for any of these problems right here. So what we want to do is usually retain as many decimal places as possible. That's why I prefer doing it this way, because I can store this super large number right here at the very end. Notice this number right here is very nice. It won't always be nice, but at least I have that number stored in the calculator, and then I can divide it by the servings at the end, and it'll ultimately give me this answer. So there's different ways to find it. It really doesn't matter which way you do it. Just be careful with the amount of decimal places you have stored. Okay, let's do number 30. 30, pulling it up right here, number 30. It says to find the food cost of percentage. So find, I'll abbreviate food cost percentage for one serving. All right. Serving. Okay, so our recipe cost, total recipe cost, is $42.75. Number of servings, I'm abbreviating, number of servings per recipe, it's going to be 15. And the selling price, and it says per serving, is $8.95. It wants us to find the total food cost percentage, so we need to find this for one serving. Now be careful. Here it gives us our total recipe costs, and it gives us the number of servings, and this is per serving. So if we want to find the food cost for one serving of the recipe, being the entire recipe, we can convert a couple of things. We can go ahead and multiply these two out and find out what our total selling price is. So 15 times 8.95. 15 times 8.95. That gives us 134.25. That's how much it costs for the entire recipe. So again, remember, food cost percentage is equal to buy over sell. And we want to find out what that food cost percentage is. It costs us for the total recipe $42.75. So food cost percentage is equal to $42.75 divided by, we're selling it for $134.25. The key thing is we had to keep total recipe costs, so we had to find the total recipe serving. So we had to find that total right here, goes right here. Key total with total, a little tricky. Go ahead and divide them out. 42.75 divided by 134.25. Our food costs percentage is going to be 0.318435 ... I don't really need the rest of the numbers after that. We can round this to 0.32, which makes 32%. So our food cost is 32%. Now, it says for one serving. It doesn't matter if it's one serving, because one serving proportionally will cost the same as the entire recipe. So 32% is our answer for that problem. All right, so that brings us to the end of the homework problems. There's a couple of problems in there. Be sure to read the questions correctly before trying it out. You got to watch out for as purchased or edible portion, all this fun stuff. The reason why we're learning this ingredient cost stuff and the food cost is because with all this food costs and ingredient costs, you put together something called a recipe cost form. And the recipe cost form brings everything together. Recipe cost form leads to, your profitability. Keeps a roof over your head for your business if you decide to open up a business. So you need to have the recipe cost, and then you can make a menu from there on. You can make money off of it and then see which menu items are costing you too much because you're not prepping a lot of them or people aren't ordering them. You can narrow your menu, expand it, do whatever. But this is the very foundation of calculating that. So calculating each ingredient leads to each recipe, which leads to the menu, which leads to the profitability. And all this can fluctuate again, because remember, your ingredient costs could be slightly different depending on where you purchase them and how much they cost. So that's why you get some, like a supplier, so you kind of get a consistent amount per thing. And this recipe cost you then use to calculate your food cost percentage. You change it from 20% to 18%, 25%, fluctuate it. Everything affects everything. There's balance in everything. Right, go ahead and do the homework. And if y'all have any questions, feel free to email me.